This is the view of Nordstrom Tower from 58th and Broadway. Now, this is one other view. It is really going up quickly. It's going to be an impressive tower. And you can see even at the base, they've started filling out some of the areas where the Nordstrom store is going to be. Now, they actually created a condominium space, so they're owners of the first 7 floors. Now, they are having doubts as to how much space they're going to be using, and that's primarily because the retail industry in the United States is not doing as well as it was doing before when they first created this concept. But who knows? Things change all the time. Amazon, which is the ultimate online retailer, is now building out space in various parts of New York to develop stores. So you never know. And this is a slightly different perspective of the Nordstrom Tower. We're on 58th Street right now and just looking at the Nordstrom Tower and the construction. You can see it is so well built. I think they had that in mind. The developers of this really wanted that, and they were very lucky to be able to get Nordstrom, a very strong, big national retailer in the United States, to want to take part in this development. You can see the great construction that they're doing here. It's a little quiet today for them. Usually they're a little bit more active. Here is an even closer view for those aficionados of construction, people who might want to see a little bit more detail, just to see what's going on. Sometimes it's very interesting when people take videos, you can observe different methods of construction, different ways of doing things, and construction is one of those fields that are constantly changing and evolving, and a lot of it is very site specific and building specific. Some building developers are willing to spend a lot of money to make sure their development is just above and beyond. Other developers, they just want to do things that are necessary. And this is an example of a building that's really well done. And again, these first 7 stories that we're seeing, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that's going to be owned by the Nordstrom store as a condominium. Now, they had to get into a special deal with the next door neighbors to purchase some additional space, purchase their air rights. And yes, in New York, even the air is for sale. So a lot of times developers want additional space above the building, but due to regulations in New York, everything is allotted for. So if a neighbor has space above their building that they're not using, they can sell those rights. And that's what this development did. Purchased rights from a next door neighbor to build a little bit higher than they were allowed to. And here we're still on 58th Street, but we're just a little bit further east, so that we're able to take another view. And you can see here they put some additional space on the building just to give more space to the office and condominium area above. What an interesting thing they've done over the years is they've built space out. A lot of times due to regulations or due to owners not willing to sell out, they have to build over the buildings, and that's what they did here. And these are where the owners of the space next to the Nordstrom Tower did not want to sell, but they were willing to receive money. Now, there was one organization that received $25 million to sell their rights. So now here's one of the buildings. It's right next door. You can see the rest of the tower here. And it's significant to add this extra space because now, with low interest rates, you're able to do a lot of extra construction that you might not have been able to do before. But this allows the developer to put up more space and for a building to become more valuable because of the extra space. And the value is derived from the additional rents from renting out the office space or the condo space, or just having the additional condos there. So we'll take one more quick look at the building. And again, this is from the center of 58th Street. We're just looking up. Just a beautiful development. Here, we're just more looking into where they're going to put the Nordstrom store. You could just see how the ceiling heights are really high. So it's almost like a Macy's, except a Macy's with an office tower on top of it. Now, it's going to be a huge amount of space, and a department store needs that space. Like, in general, they need the space. They're reinventing themselves, but from when department stores started until now, you only see large department stores with high ceilings to allow for ventilation, to allow for the customers to have an incentive to buy the clothes and buy the items because they feel very much at ease. There's a lot of psychology to having a lot of extra space. And this is a prime location too, right near the hub of many connections for the subways and buses. So it's another reason why Nordstrom chose to co-invest in this building, because it just makes sense. As part of what many major retailers are doing, they're going discount. And Nordstrom at 58th and Broadway is renting out 50,000 square feet of space from 3 Columbus Circle. Now, it's an interesting thing that they're doing that. The other half of that space on the ground floor was being rented out by CVS, but at one point, the 100,000 square feet of space on the first floor and the second floor were both available. However, no one picked it up, but then Nordstrom realized that it would make sense to have like a men's wear part of their store right next to the main store. Now again, this is going part and parcel with what retailers are doing. They're trying to downsize, and they're trying to be more specific with who their clients are. Now, what's interesting is this 3 Columbus Circle is owned by the Moynihan Group and also half owned by Chinese investors. You can see what a beautiful building this is. So it's very much, very apropos to Nordstrom to have their building in such a great development like this, and for the menswear. And as I said before, since it's right near Columbus Circle, it makes it very easy for shoppers to shop and then go home, go to work, do many things. Here's another view of the Nordstrom Tower from 57th and Broadway. So we're just looking up. This will be the main face of the Nordstrom Tower, just because it's so prominent on 57th Street, and it's where a lot of people would want to enter to do shopping. Right here, there's a building with a lot of airspace that had sold their airspace for $25 million to the Nordstrom Tower. It was a very interesting decision. There was a lot of debate. Should they sell their space? Should they use it for themselves later on? But ultimately what they wanted to do was they wanted to capitalize on the ability to sell the space right now for the $25 million, because that's probably the most they were going to get until they came along and used it themselves. But a lot of times, for a lot of organizations, finding hundreds of millions of dollars to come up with development costs is just not feasible. So I think the organization, the Art Students League, decided that it was the best decision right now to sell when they could and get some money and allow a further capitalization of their organization rather than kind of hold on to what they had. Here we'll take another look at this wonderful development, just to see what it's like up close. You can see just such great engineering. And they're just going to be doing such a great job in the future.